Here is Tim Pool discussing the Daily Wire's gag order on Candace Owens. Now, it's interesting because you know who's had a lot of problems with his employees? Steven Crowder. But do you know who has also had a lot of problems with his employees? Tim Pool. I think at one point, Tim was accused of kidnapping a cat of some of his former employees. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, he's had a lot of problems with his former employees. And I wonder if he has them sign NDAs.
There are a lot of media organizations that do that, and ones you wouldn't even think.
All right, here is Tim Pool on, he's just on his own here with the gag order.
Owens, despite being one of the company's most popular hosts, was out. The company had concluded that her increasingly vocal criticisms of Israel, opposition to U.S. financing of it, and her views of anti-Semitism were incompatible with the Daily Wire's policies. I do not believe that is correct. I think that's Glenn's bias as to Israel. Look, man, I think Glenn and many of these other disaffected liberals have long been biased against Israel. I don't care. I care as much about Israel as I do as Myanmar. And that's why I often make that point. It's like, I get it. The U.S. funds it. We also fund Sudan, and we've been funding Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're funding Ukraine. We fund Ukraine more than Israel. My attitude is very simple. Like, I want to fix our roads and secure our border. I care about my neighbors, not some faraway land. But then you get people who are hyper-focused on the core moral issue of Israel, and they view everything through that lens. All of those issues.
I just want to explain what Tim is doing here, because it's fascinating. He wants to cover this because he knows he'll get some clicks. He does not want to take a position on Israel-Palestine because his audience is he cannot determine exactly where his audience is on it. And one of the things that Tim has always done, and you can see this in that Timba Toast video, is he sits on the fence and tries to make it seem like he's some type of moderate here. Somehow he is sandwiching in his sort of position that he shouldn't take a position on this. It's about roads and potholes, although he also probably doesn't want the government to be doing that unless it's a way to distract from taking a position on what war machine we're funding. But he somehow sandwiches that into the question as to whether there is about whether Candace Owens should debate Ben Shapiro. I want to make it clear here.
What the segment is? Yeah.
Well, yeah. When he says, like, because Greenwald just tweeted it out, and apparently, he had got it. I think he interviewed Candace Owens. I'm not sure where he got that information from exactly, or just had spoke to her on the phone, or had actually seen the document. But Tim says, Glenn apparently had said, you're going to have a gag order, but you also invite her to debate about this. I imagine the gag order is about talking about the business that she had, which, again, I don't think there should be NDAs in these situations. And I think that she should be allowed to talk about her working experience as much as she wants. But to equate those two things seems to me to be disingenuous. And then Tim's interpretation of it is also disingenuous. So this is sort of like a parfait, if you will, of disingenuousness.
And I want to remind people that he said in June, when we had a conversation, that he didn't have a position on Israel-Palestine because he didn't know too much about it. But he's been covering politics for a while, and Israel's been the top recipient of our military aid, I don't know, for my entire life or close to it.
For Israel's entire life.
For one of our top recipients before, obviously, Russia invaded. So it's interesting that he's suddenly concerned about potholes and bridges when it comes to funding Ukraine, but didn't even know about the top recipient of our military aid prior to our conversation in June of last year and didn't raise alarm bells about the money going there instead of to the to the potholes.
It's one thing to bring up Ukraine because of emergency funds for a country getting invaded. We've given $300 billion to Israel over 75 years, and that is to equate that to mention Sudan or like Iraq and like Afghanistan, other countries that we've invaded. Like, it's just, what is he talking about?
I should also add that I would be willing to bet he did not support the Inflation Reduction Act, which or the infrastructure bill, which does all those things he claims he wants. But continue.
I think he's calling him woke, yeah.
But then you get people who are hyper-focused on the core moral issue of Israel.
Material.
And they view everything through that lens. All of those issues would likely have been the subject of the public debate that Owens sought and that the Daily Wire claimed to want. Instead, the Daily Wire has succeeded in obtaining a gag order that, on its face, prevents Owens in advance from questioning or criticizing both the Daily Wire or Shapiro in some way. It may be that Glenn Greenwald is completely correct and has the evidence, and I'm not here to doubt that. I'm not here to tell you what to believe and what not to believe. That's a better way to put it. Personally, I think there's more to this picture than meets the eye. And having been involved in arbitration as well, you know, I think you can really just see it when he brings up the Jeremy Boring and Owens statement. He says, when asked for a comment to be included in the story, Owens replied, "I wish I could comment on this, but I can't. I can neither confirm nor deny." Where's the criticism of her for refusing to engage? It says,
That's
Boring.
enough, yeah.
Wait, what? The criticism.
He thinks Glenn's
of,
just biased toward Candace Owens. Why doesn't he criticize Candace for not getting into?
Yeah, he's
let me tell you what anybody over the age of 15 understands in this context. When you are asked, do you have an NDA? Is there a gag order? And you answer, I cannot confirm nor deny. That is a way of saying, I'm not allowed to speak on this, but I can't say that. Because if you didn't, you would say, no, I don't. And if you did, you would say, yes, I do, except for your NDA says you can't even disclose the existence of the NDA.
Yeah. There's actually a name for this in the U.S. law. It's called the Glomar response, which the deep state basically gave to keep certain projects. I think this was the Glomar Explorer out of public eyes. Like, we'll neither confirm nor deny, and that's basically been the boilerplate response to anything that they don't want to
and Tim couldn't
validate or whatever.
Yeah, Tim couldn't connect those dots that answer might mean something about the existence of an NDA.
He could. He just doesn't want to tell people what to believe.
It's complicated. Don't criticize Daily Wire too much.
The critical thinking on that front might give him some flashbacks to some employee disputes that he's been involved with, as he alluded to there, arbitration and such. I'd be curious about those documents and if anybody has a hold of them.
Look, I know this is going to come off as childish, and but I'm going to say it anyways because I think it's possible that, like, when you subject your brain to that amount of relentless heat, I think it can have detrimental impacts on your ability to navigate through some of the basic, issues. I think it can hurt you cognitively.
I've heard about.
I'm not a
brain.
doctor.
I've heard about hot brain, and it boils the brain. You know.
I'm not a doctor. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.